Hello, my internet friends. It's Rigel here, coming to you live from the Earth Dome in my backyard, also known as my mystical driftwood fort on the sandy beach of the cosmic navel, where song runs through all of reality. Yeah. Okay. Still got it. This space is a playful Theotokian riparian zone that seeks to integrate traditional values, modern values, progressive postmodern values, and that which is emerging on the horizon of the evolution of culture and consciousness, postmodern values. You know, something is popping up. Something is popping up from this ground, this groundless ground. And those of us who are noticing are trying to name it. Okay, I'm just going to make sure that I can hear myself here. Oh, wow, yes. We are trying to name it. And some of those names that I've heard are metamodernism, metagelical, developmental philosophy, integral theory, spiral dynamics, and even meta-naissance. Okay? These words, phrases are all nipping at the heels of this new emergence. Okay? This new growth. And I'm just out here on the internet, here to water the garden, maybe plant some seeds. Maybe I need a little bit of water and nutrition. Okay? So, in this space, right here, you and me, we sprinkle the internet with holy water by sharing our creations and discoveries with each other in friendship. Okay? So I dropped a link in there for you to join me right here on the internet. And we're going to have fun together. So today, I'm going to sprinkle holy water upon this very internet by sharing the final song on my Consciousness album. This is song number 7, called Integral, Developmental. The color associated with this track is yellow or gold. Okay. Hey, Mandy. Good to see you out there. One day you'll join, but totally understand. So we're going to listen to this track. I'm not going to give a full breakdown of the Consciousness album concept yet. I may do that a little bit later. But for now, we're just going to listen and watch track 7 off my Consciousness album. There is quite a bit to read, so I just want to prepare you for that. It has quite a bit more like heavy-duty reading compared to the last few tracks. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen, and we'll get this party started. All right. And I want to double check and make sure that, all right, cool. We're going to go ahead and hit the play button. Let me know if you can't hear anything. All right. Play. It's blank right now. There we go. right. That was the last track on my Consciousness album. But here's the thing. It's not the last track of Consciousness. Okay? It doesn't end here. And that's one of the I think qualities, indicators of this integral stage is understanding that my point of view is an evolutionary process and it's not over yet. We continue to grow, I would say, from glory to glory. The space is now open for anyone to join in. Any of you internet surfers, Sherry, come on in. Anyone else who is not working right now, like on the clock, or who is comfortable being on the clock while also stepping into this new clock that is outside of time and space. Okay. Okay, here we go. Sherry!
Hi.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, you too. Wow, Rajal, this was amazing. I was trying to write notes and I couldn't even look down because there was so much going on. So I thought, oh,
Yeah.
I gotta watch it again and again. I think it was really good.
I realized that I kind of listened to it on a walk this morning, listened and watched, and I realized how wordy it is and how many dense concepts I throw in there and don't leave a lot of room to digest. So this is maybe the digestive process.
Yeah, and you know what I think is interesting about that is that it's actually reflecting the process itself. Because because you've got all these like just little blobs and little sentences and everything's floating by and it's just like one thing at a time. But now in this part, everything gets integrated and it's complex. And look at even the graphics are, crowded, right?
Yeah.
So
there's a lot going on.
Yeah, no, it's really good.
I can take us off this screen, but before I do, I just wanted to draw your attention to a couple of things that I don't think I really explained. Well, maybe I did. I think maybe I did actually explain this whole graphic.
No,
but
go back. I was going to ask you to do this anyways.
Yeah. Well, so there's I reference the alpha and omega and how this yellow color or gold color touches. It's kind of like it's like if you're looking down at a spiral. That's what this graphic is it's kind of a spiral that's coming up towards the person. And that yellow is both this background color blob that precedes everything, and it's also this thread that kind of threads through all of these different levels and stages of development. And this particular stage, according to the theory, emerges as kind of a survival stage. It's like it's so if you notice, the first blob is that beige, and if you remember back in the first little video, beige blob it's the survival stage. It's just mother's milk, food, shelter, reproduction, very visceral. And back again, we're at this new kind of stage of survival where we're trying to make sense of everything that seems to be kind of crumbling. Well, I can't speak for you. I can only speak for myself and,
Oh no.
What
there,
I
done
see
that.
out there. Yeah.
Expect to do it again. Kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. But one cool element of this theory is each stage kind of toggles between whole and part, or another way to look at this is express self, sacrifice self, or
I like
I would say masculine and feminine. And that's going to be less popular, but I think there's something really rich about the masculine feminine polarity that's at the heart of reality.
Yeah.
And so, like, the beige would be kind of the express self, and then purple is that's the mythic magic, the first kind of agrarian shamanic style civilization where we create the sacrificial system, and it's all about pleasing the gods and being part of this community, because together we survive longer. And then that gives rise to this red ego stage, which is the express self, the individual identity, which gives rise to the traditional system, which is, again, sacrifice for the greater good, which then gives rise to the individualism of modernity and the redignifying of the individual in a new way,
Right.
And then the green is back to this kind of world-centric. It's a new level of sacrificing for everyone, not just our tribe, but it becomes its own little tribal ethnocentrism. And then
what's the word? Cenobitic community.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Yeah. So, anyways, here we are.
Well, I wrote a couple things down.
Yeah, please.
When you were talking about the alpha and the omega and the threads and everything, I was thinking of weaving. I was thinking of the Theotokos, because traditionally speaking, she wove in the temple. She wove.
I did not know that.
No, you don't know that? Oh, that is fantastic.
This is good.
I mean, it makes sense because embryos are knit together, right? There's a lot of that kind of language around the feminine, weaving, knitting, spinning.
Yeah.
I had a little comment section conversation with Ethan about that, actually, because he said, I don't remember exactly how it went, but he talked about the fates. He said, when I see you spinning, I think of the fates, kind of thing. And they're women, right? Anyways, that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
And then, when you said duty, that's a dissonant chord for me. Like it is.
It is me too.
Because I struggled with that I didn't know how to integrate that, actually, Rigel.
Yeah.
Right? I pushed against it because it felt too boxy, I guess, something like that. But now I understand it as co-creation with God. Yeah. And then the fact that you wrote, it's my responsibility, that points to me, to the individual, but away from individualism.
Right. It's which is individual, and responsibility, which is this can be such an oppressive word, but I bristle at duty and I bristle at responsibility because I've only had most of my relationship with that word is basically being told what to do and not being involved in the process.
Yeah. Not being able to make it your own. Yeah. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah. Yeah. So my responsibility and duty, the way that I've gotten more comfy with these two words is a responsibility to the paradox.
Yes.
I can't do the echo chamber camps anymore. I just I fall into it every once in a while, when I'm feeling
The rage.
vulnerable. Yeah, feeling the rage. I'm
Usually
feeling
rage.
weak.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when I'm acting at my highest self, I feel the duty and I remember the duty to the paradox of opposite, knitting together opposites.
Yeah.
And I
There's so
think that's
much of
the,
oh, go ahead. Sorry, I
I mean,
interrupted.
that's the magic of this kind of worldview, value system, agreement system, which I think is naturally emerging within this whole TLC world. Like that's what kind of attracted me to this space is there is this comfort with disagreement and community. Like there's a comfort with the disagreement and the community and the emergence of something new that kind of
Yeah.
comes out of that, the sparks created by that.
Yeah. Hopefully the community doesn't develop just around disagreement though, because that can happen. Those are
Totally.
debate clubs,
Yeah.
that
And I
kind
mean,
of.
that's hopefully maybe I have something to offer in that as like
I hope so
not
too.
as the alternate. Like the thing is this isn't an either or. I don't see this as like we all
No.
need to be sharing creative spaces, but I think it helps just to have just a little bit of salt in there. Like Mandy, my own unique participation in responsibility, a net of love holding the world together. Amen, sister. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's when I'm looking at this image of the let's bring this back. When I'm looking at this image here of these little holes of gold within each color blob, it's actually redignifying. The last time we did this, we looked at progressive postmodernism, that kind of green stage, and I was pretty harsh towards that value system, partly because I think I'm emerging out of it, and I
Right.
have a lot of allergies that are fresh. But I think this integral value system is able to dignify the best of the heart of progressive postmodernism, which is to be super inclusive. Like that is such a beautiful, I don't ever want to live in a world that isn't super inclusive. Like,
Yeah. I think the other thing about postmodernism that is overlooked as being a benefit is questioning truth.
yeah, oh, absolutely. That's
Because like you said, you were told what to do and you did what you were told, right? Well, there's no being like you're not co-creating with anyone. You're just saying things after somebody else. And I got to that stage in my life when I was about 22. Yeah, me too.
good to see
Um,
you, Sam. Keep going, Sherry.
and I remember hearing myself saying things that other people said, and I would, quoting them like saying, "My dad said," or "the pastor said," or "It's because so and so said," and then I was like, well, one day this question floated through my mind. It was like, well, what do you think? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know what I think. And so then I decided to go to the Bible college where I met my husband. I little did I know that my education was going to be in being married and not. So yeah. Anyway, um, I think that's what I've been doing for a long time. Is just trying to figure out what is it that I think. What is it? What is it?
Yeah, that's a really interesting that you bring that up because I am. I had some little pings of adrenaline when you described this phase of life when you were quoting people a lot, and that's where you found your stability. And
Yeah.
that is like, that's close to home because I mean, that wasn't very many years ago when that was my MO, but it was partly just, I didn't have, what was it? How did I get out of that? I mean, I think a lot of it was therapy, and maybe 12-steppy type programs where you learn to speak from your own experience, strength,
Right.
and hope. And like quoting people in a vulnerable share is lands pretty flat when you're in a really vulnerable room.
Yeah. I still quote people, but it's different now because when I quoted the people before, I was those were like I didn't have any thoughts of my own. Like there was nothing added to the quote, And I don't mean like books quotes from books, but um, I'll dare to say like quoting scripture to
Yeah.
people, quoting a sermon that you've heard, or rephrasing a sermon that you've heard, or whatever. Um, Now when I quote people, it's mostly because there's this resonance between my experience and what they're talking about. And um like this is what poetry is like. Okay? So you read poetry and you quote poetry and you say poetry because it brings your own experience into some kind of, I don't even know how to describe it. Like resonance. There's a
It,
resonance. That's all I can say.
yeah, it reminds me of that. Have you heard of the practice Lectio Divina,
Yeah.
where you interact with a piece of writing?
Mhm.
It might even be your own writing. It doesn't have to
Oh,
be
often
a
is.
yeah. And I think there's this co-creative spark that can happen when I'm quoting with like I'm pulling a thread to see what comes next rather than like this is the buck stops at this quote and I can't
Yeah.
go past it. And I think that
Right.
had been my relationship with quoting people. And
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
it's like I'm now bringing the person into my life as a partner to do some jazz with.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, like bringing all those notes in, right? That's that complexity kind of thing that
Yeah,
you were talking about.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it can be a little destabilizing because there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
But then it also makes, I noticed at the end of the song when it kind of came in for a landing,
Mhm.
and I just had this like, this
Yeah.
moment of like just release, having kind of gone through so much is being said. I'm like reading, I'm trying to pay attention to the blobs. The music is like pretty intense.
Yeah.
And then it made the simplicity more profound, or just
Yeah.
that the contrast.
Yeah. No, it was great. It was great. I'm going to definitely go through it a few more times.
Mandy says, I used quotes as swords or as a defense against the fear of uncertainty. Dang it. Yes. Now, if something in words glimmers, I want to share. Love
Perfect.
that.
Perfect. That's exactly what I was trying to say. And here's the thing. A friend of mine sent me a message the other day. I'm just gonna grab it because I hate misquoting. Here she said, um, she was thinking of a passage from MacDonald, "The people at the ruins," and I can't remember what story that is right now. Mandy, if you recognize it, you can help us out. Um, how they need help from each other to get their thinking done and their feelings hatched. George MacDonald. That's a quote from George MacDonald. That the people come together to get their thinking done and their feelings hatched. I I think that was I think that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because feelings, it's interesting. That word hatch
I know.
really adds a lot. Because you're not just getting them out.
No,
There's,
they're being born.
yeah.
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 And that's,
And in that story, and I for some reason I think it's the castle, but I don't know if it's castle. Um they need each other to do that. Like they can't do that without each other, right?
mm-hmm.
So that's really cool.
Yeah.
I was
So
really very emotional.
another connection to this whole integral song, which I recorded this probably at least 3 years ago, and did the text at least a year ago. So I've evolved a little bit since then.
Mhm.
And one of my new additions to this is I'm going to share something with you. Okay. This is a cup
No.
that, see that
Two
two
beavers.
little mountain.
Oh, gophers.
We go for, we call them marmots
Marmot. Oh,
in
okay,
the
marmot.
Northwest.
Yeah, yeah.
They
We have
like
marmots here
call
too.
out across the
Yeah, they
canyons.
whistle. Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
And what's cool about this is it's really beautifully glazed. It has this like shiny,
Yeah,
thick glaze, and then the cloud is an unglazed section,
beautiful.
and the little creatures are also unglazed, and so it has this feeling of this inner cloud that
Right,
is
right.
being kind of revealed. You
Yeah,
know,
it's not glazed over.
yeah, it's not glazed over. Oh, so good. And my mom gave this cup to me probably, I don't know, a few years ago, and I broke it within a month
No.
and lost the handle. And I was like, I can't bring myself to throw it away because it's, my mom knows the artist,
Yeah, yeah.
and, you know, and it's just sitting there trying to think what to do with it. And finally, I discovered kintsugi, the Japanese
Yes.
art form where you repair cracks and draw
Nice.
attention to tracks. And so I attached this piece of rebar that I found on the side of the highway,
That is amazing.
ground it down, and attached it using kintsugi,
Oh,
which this is this is the cheapest stuff you can get off of Amazon.com.
yeah.
But it is that gold color,
Oh,
you
wow,
know?
that's amazing.
And I feel like that's part of what happens
Yeah.
with this way of seeing, like between two surfaces that are being glued together is this seam. And there is, I, for the longest time, and I still do this. I mean, I've not achieved a whole lot in this life, Sherry, but I Well, I wasn't aware how much I would kind of glaze over the cracks in my life and just try to like hide them. And this art is just, it's so beautiful because it's this reminder that it's the cracks that are where the story is and where the meeting of two opposites kind of come together.
Well, here's the thing. I got to tell. I don't know if I told you this before, but when I was at that school that I went to, that it wasn't a Bible school. It wasn't an accredited. Like you didn't get a degree or anything. It was just a 1-year program where you live together, listen to lectures, work together, eat together. And and it was the only place I could go because I was a unwed mother, and nobody else would take me.
Wow.
It's literally how it went. Because I did apply to some actual Bible colleges, but nope.
No way, really?
Yeah. This was 1982, 81. I was applying.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, I had this question that was just, it was like killing me. And the question was, why did God put the tree of the knowledge of good and evil in the garden? And anytime a new lecturer came in, like, because the lecturers would come in and stay for a week, and they'd do like a whole series from the Bible, and they had their own house, and you could make appointments and visit with them and stuff. Every time a lecturer would show up, I'd be like, I'm going to go ask my question, because I just thought somebody must know, right? Like it's there. And they all said things like, well, that's a good question, but nobody had an answer. And I remember feeling really disappointed. And I not in the people, but just in the fact that, how would I put this? The story is there for us to know something. And I don't think anybody really tried to know it. They skipped it. They glazed over it. There we go. And so I was in my little cabin with my daughter. She was playing on the floor, and I was picking up laundry. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I had this, like, I can't say it was a vision because it wasn't visual, but it was just like a download. That's what I call it now because of the internet. It was like a download. And I remember falling, like I don't remember falling down on the ground, but I came to sitting on my butt on the floor with all this laundry in my arms because I had sheets and baby clothes and. And I remember looking at my daughter right away because I thought, how long have I been like this? Like I didn't know. And she was still doing the thing that I saw her doing when I was walking across the room. So I was like, oh, that was like milliseconds. Right?
Wow.
And it was the answer to my question. Okay. And the only words that came out of my mouth when I came to was no way. That's what I said. And the biggest takeaway, and there's lots of little things around it, little constellations of things, okay?
Tell me.
Which I have been discovering in Gregory of Nyssa, Origen, like all these church fathers. And look, I didn't graduate from high school. I never got a college diploma. I never read a philosophy book in my life, okay? I knew nothing. But the biggest takeaway was, in order for everything to be made whole, it has to be broken.
Yeah. Wow.
And that's why I read that in that essay that I wrote. I read that quote from John O'Donohue. Beauty is in the palace of broken tenderness, right? Because here's the thing about beauty and I think that we're talking about the beautiful right now. Like, yeah. Because beauty is, what's his name? Hans von Balthasar says that beauty is the disinterested one. I love that. that
Say more.
dances around the constellation of goodness and goodness and truth. And when I see that image, I see something that is encircling something. It's bringing something together, right? And the way I've always understood beauty is that we experience beauty when we see everything come together. Right? So, like, just imagine it, someone's face, someone who's physically beautiful or even spiritually beautiful. They don't have to be physically beautiful. They can just strike you as beautiful. You can't say that it's their eyes, their ears, their nose, their mouth, their shape of their head, the color of their hair, the color of their eyes. There's so many particulars about them. It's the whole thing that comes together that strikes you as beautiful. And let's just, for the sake of the argument, say that they're not very beautiful physically, but they still strike you as beautiful. It's because their spirit, their soul, and the way that they move their body in the world, who they are, it all comes together to form this unity, right? Of parts. That's what kintsugi is.
Yeah.
You're taking parts and you're creating a whole. And that's why it's beautiful. And that's what beauty does, right? And yeah, so yeah.
So how did you, can you connect that to the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? So I can
Yeah. Okay. So what I was
wrap my
thinking
head
is,
around that.
my conundrum was, is this really a mistake? Like, is this, God put it there. God knows who we are. And it's also why I wrote that thing that I read on the open mic thing about the snake. Were you also mother? Okay?
Yeah.
Because something was born at that moment between Eve and the snake. Okay? Now I know that this is like hard to talk about, but that's why I write poetic things about it, right? But I didn't understand how do I put this? I want to think of the right words. I didn't understand that time is not linear. Okay? I think that's really important in this discussion. And that the story is not historical. It's not like first this, then this, then this, then this, then this fall, then now it's like trying to get back to God. Because if you think about those things on a linear scale, that's what it looks like. And then you miss the mythological aspects of the story. So I think it's developmental.
Yeah.
The story in the garden. Okay.
Yeah.
And so we have to be broken in order to be made whole. And one of the words that kept coming through my mind at the time was redeemed. What does redeem mean? Right? It means to take something that is so-called useless and make it valuable. Like your cup. Like your cup that you just showed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And that's how we feel about our lives. We feel somewhat useless, right? We know all our inconsistencies. We know that we're not doing the best we can. We know all those things. But God breaks us so that we can know that we are valuable to him. And, this might sound disjointed. I'm sorry if it does, but Jeremy was telling me that his priest said to him, how we call the church the hospital? And Jeremy's like, yeah. He goes, well, the monastery is the ICU. Okay. These are the most broken people in that case, if what he's saying is true. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry. Anyway, I could go on a tangent.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about this developmental aspect of the tree, the fruit, the snake. There's the snake in the garden, but then there's the snake that's the staff of healing.
Right. Which is a
And
paradox.
yeah. Yeah. And
You have to look at the thing that put you in that place of disease
mm-hmm.
in order to be healed.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why I asked the snake in my thing, are you also mother?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what a powerful, like, Jungian moment to face the monster in your dream, and approach it with curiosity and friendship. And that's really the question. I don't care how much I may hate a person or someone drives me nuts. As soon as I can remember that they had a mom and they're and they were a child and they were, they're all these very easily overlooked realities to the fullness of their person. And I just hope that some people have that view of me too, because, I can represent the snake in some people's lives. I have represented the snake in some people's lives. And I think I've also represented the paradox of so the fruit, I was thinking about the fruit, like there's always going to be, no matter what stage of development we're in, there's always going to be a fruit that is being offered and that is kind of scary, because that opens a whole bag of worms that this value structure, this worldview can't handle. But it's meant to be handled eventually. And it's like taking the offering of the snake is like the first step that crumbles. I mean, everything breaks after that. And then it's like a journey to reintegrate and
well, Jesus said, I came to heal the sick. That's what he said.
Yeah.
Right? St. Paisios has a saying where there's a story about him, that snakes used to come around his cabin a lot. And some of the other monks would say, you need to kill those.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, no, I have snakes in my heart.
Mm. Yeah. Maybe
he was known for having lots of snakes around his place. They came to him, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't even want to try to figure that out, like it's just so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. When I was, a couple weeks ago, my wife and child were out of town for a week and a half. And so I was just out of my routine. I was like sitting outside at night when normally I would be like tucking people in and, doing all the duties. And I just like let everything go to shit. The dishes just, actually what I try to do is just eat from the same plate and bowl and like not do any dishes.
Right.
But like perfect minimalist. But that did not happen. They just ended up stacking up. but I was sitting outside and I had just fed the cats, which are part feral, part tame. Like they're not indoor cats. They're outdoor cats, but we feed them and we have a budget for how much we'll spend on them,
Right.
before we'll just let them die, which but I'm sitting out there and I'm fed the cats and they kind of had their fill, and then the possums came out. And the possums are just like these giant rats
Yeah,
that are
cute.
like really friendly, but I was facing some demons. I'll be honest with you. I was facing some demons. Hey, Ethan.
Oh, you can.
And I'm wondering, like I would put the bowls up on a table to get them away. Like I thought, oh, if they can't reach them, then they'll just kind of go away. But they climbed the table, this like metal legs, and like, and they get up there, and then I would take a broom. I'm just having a confession moment right here. I took a broom and I would push them off the table and
Oh,
kind of send them flying. But they would just keep coming back. And I was like, I'm going to lose this fight. And I'm wondering if maybe I'm fighting something inside me that needs to be looked at. So
mm,
I don't know what possums represent, but I know that they're not like harmful creatures. They eat bugs.
yeah.
They spread. Like one of these possums had like 8 baby possums on their back, and it was just like so gross. And I don't know what to do with disgust.
Yeah.
Guys,
Yeah.
this is my tree of good and evil moment.
Yeah.
So I'm just putting that out there. Ethan, do you have anything bubbling up?
Well, I just wanted to catch you and tell you how much I enjoyed the final track. I went back and listened to it a few minutes ago, and it was just cool to see what you chose as something like Resolution.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to listen to the whole thing at once now, which I look forward to.
Yeah. And I thought about you when I went back and listened to it earlier today, just to like make sure that this was still something I believed. And I thought about you calling me out and about my kind of chip on the shoulder type relationship with the green, the progressive postmodernism. And you're like, interesting. You don't have a whole lot of positive to say about this stage. But I think part of that is because it's very close to integral. It's like its inclusiveness is very much integrated in the integral stage. And I tried to dignify that within this song and animated blob video. By kind of like, here, I'll show you. So how there's like, if you're looking at this as kind of a spiral coming up at you, you have like all of the different blobs kind of stacked on top of each other going in a spiral up. And the way I thought of it is the green reaches back down through the spiral. It has the heart to include everyone. It wants to like include the Aborigines, just don't bring them into my world. It wants to like include everyone, but it's the integral that then like threads the needle back up through the green. And so there's this kind of like reaching down and threading back up that I was thinking about when I smashed these blobs together on my screen. Anyways.
Yeah, I thought it was a really beautiful picture of wholeness. Yeah, at the end of it, it just felt very whole.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. what I was going for.
You know, I have to. The other thing I was thinking about watching it and stuff was because, like I said earlier, you talked a lot about threads, and and I'm a spinner, and there's something really philosophical about just the art of spinning, because there's a lot of movement in it. Like, so when I'm spinning what they call a single, which is one strand, I'm spinning clockwise. And then what I have to do in order to have a yarn in the end is spin 2 of those singles. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that?
Yeah.
2 of those together. Okay. And when I do that, I have to spin counterclockwise.
Wow.
And so I spin 2 bobbins, which are, let me just make this easy to understand.
We're getting the full lesson, Rigel.
Yeah, we are.
I spin 2 of these, right? And then I spin, and then I use a different bobbin, a bigger one. These are down on the bottom, and I pull up the threads from each one of these, and I go counterclockwise, and I create a skein. Okay. The key is I have to put enough tension in the single so that when I spin it backwards, it doesn't turn into fluff, right? But I can't put so much tension in the single that when I spin it backwards, it's completely like twisted into itself, and then it would make this finished product would end up all kinked and twisted itself.
Yeah.
Right. So like if I pull this off, this one.
Hey, Luke, come on in.
If I pull
What
that
up,
off,
Tommy?
oh, it's not doing it. Anyways, it's crinkles back on itself.
Yeah.
There you can see how it does that little thing.
Yeah.
It's not much, but what you want in the end is balance. It's called balance in spinning, okay? And what the balance guarantees you is that when you knit a garment, it doesn't go like this all sideways.
Yeah, like,
because it would actually skew towards one side or the other depending on the tension that you have in your yarn.
Really?
Yeah. Like, Rigel, this is like
it's incredible.
And here's the other thing. It's a spiral. The twist is a spiral, and it's dynamic because when I'm spinning, I've got this chunk of wool, just raw wool, and I'm letting it move. I'm getting tension in my leader, right? Because it's on the wheel and it's spinning around and it's getting twist in it, and it contains all the twist. This does, and I hold it. And I let the twist into my ball of yarn or my bat of wool that's not spun yet. I have to let it in. I what they call introduce the twist to this cloud that is nothing. And that and it moves in like a spiral into the wool. And I have to draw back, and this finger here holds that tension. But it also determines the diameter of the wool that I'm making. So if I want to make a fine wool, I have a little tiny diameter. And if I want a chunkier wool, I have a bigger diameter, right? So I allow the twist. Anyways,
That is so fascinating. And what's standing out
Well,
to me is, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
With each kind of level, fractal level up, the spin changes directions. So you have the single
Yeah.
spins one way, and then to spin two together, you have to spin it the other way.
Yeah.
But then that you're holding in your hand right there, is that not clockwise? A clockwise spin?
This is counterclockwise. It's
Oh,
called
that's
flying.
counterclock.
Yeah, because what it does is, so you have a clockwise twist, and then you go backwards, and those these two that you have on the bobbins, they curl around each other because they have a clockwise twist in them. And then you get this two ply, right? But yeah, and here's the other thing. Like, there are people out there that spin and they measure their ratio. They have little numbers on on the ends of their bobbin. These are ratio circles, okay? And it gives you the number of twists per inch on your yarn. And some people get really, really anal about it, and they measure everything. They hold their finished yarn up to a card, and they look to see how many twists per inch they have, and blah, all this stuff. And when I was learning how to spin, I thought, I really love it, like love it. And I thought, what if I lose my eyesight? Could I still spin? So I started spinning with my eyes closed.
Yeah.
And now, if I think too much about what I'm doing and what my end result, what my desired outcome of the thing is, it never turns out properly. But if I just go by feeling, then you mean the measurement stuff, Luke? All the measuring, yeah. If I go by feeling, then it just turns. And the interesting thing, the reason I'm telling you guys this is because it's so much like life. And this is why, Ethan, I think that's why the fates are spinners, right? And we also call telling stories spinning yarns, because what we're doing is we're taking, so-called stories, individual stories that are circling clockwise, and then you move them counterclockwise, and they wrap themselves up in each other. They embrace each other is literally what they do in my hands. And then with that yarn that these two strands that embrace each other, I can create a garment, a covering for someone.
Yeah.
Anyway. And it's
That is
all
so
spiral.
rich. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. All spirals.
That is so rich.
Yeah. So I just wanted to throw that in there, because I was thinking about it the whole time, like, because you were talking about threads and everything, right? Yeah. And weaving, and the Theotokos, and this Theotokian space, and this riparian zone, and this.
I love that you love all of that.
I
There's
love it.
only a few people on Earth, I think, who can appreciate it.
Riparian zones? Snakes.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Oh wow. That is brilliant. That's so true.
It's true.
Is riparian where land and water meet?
Yeah. It's like that rich kind of, most of the life activity on Earth happens on riparian zones.
Yeah.
Life that's still connected to its kind of evolutionary reality.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
Wait, say that again.
Um,
Life that's still connected to its evolutionary reality. Why'd you say that?
that is a good question. Thanks for pinning me down, Ethan, and not letting me just spin off into the ether with my jazz. So what I was thinking of is how humans and their cell phones are a little bit detached from their evolutionary realities. Their cell phones, and by cell phones, I mean like our entire industrial system that allows us to exist outside of riparian zones for entire lifetimes. I mean, we don't need to be next to water, really, to survive. We can use technology to bring it to us.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my like gut reaction response.
It's are you familiar with Rudolf Steiner at all?
A little bit, yeah.
Because he has the two beasts in Revelation as Ahriman and Lucifer. Lucifer is in the water. It's the beast in the water, which is wet and chaotic, and it represents the passions. And the Ahrimanic is the beast on the dry land, and it's steely. It's described as steely. It's the machine. Okay, it's on dry land where there's no water. and what he says is that it is the Luciferic, okay, the passions, the chaos, the heat that delivers you up to the machine. I'm not saying it's the water, but it just reminded me of it because you were talking about it as an evolutionary reality. And I think what you're thinking, Rigel, without maybe realizing it, is that evolution is a developmental theory. It starts with a, little whatever bacteria or thing, and it moves into the complex organism. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think partly that comment was a little tongue in cheek because we're all on the evolutionary journey with our internet cameras and all, which we are sprinkling holy water on to make beautiful.
Amen. Yeah.
So maybe I take that back, Ethan. But there's no takebacks on YouTube. It's just out there forever now.
No, but you can start spinning the other way, right? You can move from clockwise to counterclockwise.
Yeah.
You can respin.
I can respin and integrate. I mean, a part of it is I'm having like an internal conflict with this part of myself that wishes I lived in a riparian zone. But I've created a riparian zone out here on the internet. And, I have these parts of me. I think I have this nostalgia of my childhood where everything was so outdoors, and I spent so much time on my bike and riding all around town, this cute little town that was just one giant riparian zone. I mean, literally, we were surrounded by water on like 280 degrees of, it's a little peninsula. And then in the middle of it were wetlands and, just like a lot of life. And part of me wishes I had more of that in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So Anything else you guys have that you want to share? Anything
Actually,
you want to?
I brought something to share, and
Yeah,
it's not my writing. It's
sure.
D.H. Lawrence. So, can't go
Yeah,
wrong.
that sounds great.
Can't fail that way. Can't fail too badly. The business of living. While the soul really lives, its deepest dread is perhaps the dread of automatism. For automatism in life is a forestalling of the death process. D.H. Lawrence. And the rest of this is just an excerpt from an essay I think he wrote. This is the way out of the vicious circle, not to rush round on the periphery like a rabbit in a ring, trying to break through, but to retreat to the very center, and there to be filled with a new strange stability, polarized in unfathomable richness with the center of centers. We are so silly, trying to invent devices and machines for flying off from the surface of the earth, instead of realizing that for us the deep satisfaction lies not in escaping, but in getting into the perfect circuit of the earth's terrestrial magnetism. The business of living is to travel away from the source, but you must start every single day fresh from the source. You must rise every day afresh out of the dark sea of the blood. When you go to sleep at night, you have to say, "Here dies the man I am and know myself to be." And when you rise in the morning, you have to say, "Here rises an unknown quantity, which is still myself." The self which rises naked every morning out of the dark sleep of the passionate, hoarsely calling blood. This is the unit for the next society, and the polarizing of the passionate blood in the individual towards life. We have to sink back into the darkness and the elemental consciousness of the blood, and from this rise again. But there is no rising until the bath of darkness and extinction is accomplished. As social units, as civilized men, we have to do what we do as physical organisms. Every day the sun sets from the sky and the darkness falls, and every day when this happens, the tide of life turns in us. Instead of flowing upwards and outwards towards mental consciousness and activity, it turns back to flow downwards. Downwards toward the digestion processes, downwards further to the great sexual conjunctions, downwards to sleep. This is the soul now retreating back from the outer life of day, back to the origins. I just read that this morning.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to share it with you.
Yeah, the business of living is traveling away from the source. That feels relevant to the conversation about the garden and the tree and the traveling away from the source when we eat the apple. There's something about fruit that's I think relates to growth and
well, Jesus talked about it a lot.
Yeah, there's like it's a sensual. There's desire and sensuality tied up in
because
growth.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are some trees that are male and female, and bees are pollinators, and trees are having sex, and fruit is the result of that.
Oh my gosh, I haven't even thought about that. That's so wild. It's like slow motion sex. The whole world is like having slow motion sex.
I was sitting out on the front porch of our wall tent a couple years ago. Suddenly I could hear thunk, 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 thunk. And we've got this outdoor shower, and then there's this like sheet metal roof over the hot water heater. And every now and then I'd hear cling, cling, thunk, 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 and I'm like, what the heck? It's not raining, it's not hailing, and I go over there and it's this huge Douglas fir and it's dropping its pine cones all at once. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm watching a tree give birth. It was just awe-inspiring, Rigel.
Oh my gosh.
I never saw that before. I've seen pine cones on the ground, but I never saw them all down at once like a snowstorm.
Wow. And it wasn't super windy or anything?
No, it wasn't windy. It was just a quiet, calm
That's wild.
day, and all of a sudden I can hear thunk, 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 cling, 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 And I'm like, what is happening over there? And the tree was having babies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean these are really slow processes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and with these devices here that we have, everything's just it's so fast that we've actually gotten to the place now where children have no attention span. How are they going to notice these things?
Mm-hmm.
How much is lost, right?
Yeah.
I mean, these are the things that I feel like are at like the very front of my mind, and I'm resonating with a lot of this and wrestling, like very practically wrestling. Like, I have 2 weeks left in Alaska, and then I go home, and then the immediate question is, well, then it's like what I don't know, 2 months, then I'm married, and then it's like, okay, Ethan, well, like what are you going to build for your family? What kind of family are you going to build? Not that I'm the only, like, obviously it's Jane and I building a family together, but like a direction has to kind of be picked. Where are you going to live? Like, you're going to buy a home. Where are you going to buy a home? Like, that's a big question that determines like, like, Rigel, you're saying it's like, are you going to find a home in a riparian zone? Are you going to find a home in a desert? Like the environment you live in, like, I think has a massive effect on, and we have this belief now that we can live anywhere, which, like, maybe that's true. But like the last year, we've been in different cities for 3 months at a time, and I have personally felt an overwhelming effect from where we lived, what the environment was like. Like I don't think I could live well anywhere. I don't think I'm capable of living well anywhere. Like when we were in Washington, every morning I would open the door and it would just be a flood of trees. And maybe it was all mental and imaginary, but I swear that the air felt more alive. And when we were in the city, the air feels dead. And there's just so much of me that's going like, I might have to sacrifice things in order to build a life that moves towards life. Like, I'm not sure I can watch TV every night. I'm not sure, like, there's like so much of the way, I don't know, the gravity of like, just, this is what life is. And then it just kind of pulls you in, and then you go like, how did I get here? It's like, well, you just stopped making choices and culture chose for you.
Yeah.
So I don't know. This all feels heavy to me.
It is heavy. And then if and when kids enter the picture, like, it's really easy to be hard on yourself, but it's also like, I mean, so many of our ideals just went out the window when our child emerged, because it's just like you're at the end of your rope constantly. And I'm on decision burnout. And I feel like just in the last few years, we've like been able to wrangle our ideals back into the picture. Because, we had some medical things that just took up all of our bandwidth. Yeah, I'm just trying to say I feel you.
I mean, I'm you're at the beginning and I'm kind of towards the end, Ethan. And but I haven't forgotten. Like I know what it all feels like. I know what Rigel's talking about. I know what you're talking about before marriage and all the things that you need to think of. And I remember wishing there was things I could do, but I had a commitment, a duty to my family. And I mean, I knew people who were throwing that away for the thing they wanted to do, right? And I just said no. One day I'll be able to do it. And as a young person at the time, it felt like, oh, I'm wasting my life. I'm, all these stupid things that you think about, eh? But I'm at that place now where I can almost do whatever I want within reason. And, but, and what I realize about it is I would have never been able to do it until I got here. Yeah. Everything that happened before that, all the chaos, all the tragedy, all the indecisiveness, all the, should I do this? Should I, what if, and all that was necessary to get me to the place where the thing that I really want to do, I can actually do. I can do it now. Before that, it would have been a posing of some kind, like an imposter thing. It was, I think this is who I am, this identity lie that we get into, But in the end, I am that thing that I thought I was, but I had to go through everything before I could get there, like it's, yeah.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, Ethan, something that popped up while you're describing your situation is, maybe this is where little integral technology can help. The first time I was actually introduced to some of these adjacent ideas, which I think are just at the heart of developmental theory, integral, whatnot, was when I took a values-based conflict resolution course because I wanted to learn mediation. And I ended up falling in love with conflict because of this method that they taught, called values integration, where if you can like take opposing positions and find the underlying values between each position, then it can turn into kind of a creative process that then can can synthesize new positions that are co-created. Whereas like when you just have like, you spend too much money, you are too much of a tight ass or whatever. Those two can't really dance together. But this was right around the time that I got married. And one of the things that my wife and I did was we sat down and we did a little bit of an envisioning thing for, what we wanted our life to look like together, and wrote down a lot of values, not necessarily specifics, but these like kind of core values of like creating a creative space, you know, stability. I mean, you kind of list out the values, but it turns into, it was kind of like a guiding document that would influence these direction changes we'd have to make. Like how do they, you know, relate back to this shared vision that we have together? And it led to, I mean, marriage is freaking hard. But it helped us like make decisions together. Like we bought this New Mexico property that probably would have never happened if we didn't have some shared underlying values that we had kind of talked about and were on the same page about. And, you know, all of our little co-creative projects around the house or, you know, in our lives, I think start with values. Because they're very in that values kind of brainstorming stage. Everything's still very pliable when you're in that values place. And as soon as you lock it down into a specific thing, it becomes like something that needs to be evaluated and like either accepted or rejected. This is I just went down a long rabbit trail. I don't know if any of this is making sense, but values is a good place to be.
You know, I have in this binder here, I have this little piece of paper that I wrote these 4 things on when I was 14 years old. I don't know if I can find it actually, because I think I shoved it in. Oh, maybe I put it in here. Here it is.
No, Ethan's frozen.
Oh, here. See? Creeds. Because I have this theory that you aren't really any different than you are. Like you just always are the same person. This is this idea in the Psalms where you're fearfully and wonderfully made, you know? But anyway, I'll just read. Oh, there's 3 of them. I expect to pass this way but once. Any good, therefore, that I can do, or any kindness that I can show to any fellow creature, let me do it now. Let me not defer or neglect it, for I shall not pass this way again. That was one. The other one was, do not follow where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. That's the second one. And the third one, I live for those who love me, for those who know me true, for the heaven that smiles above me and awaits my spirit too, for the cause that lacks assistance, for the wrong that needs resistance, for the future and the distance and the good that I can do. And, you know, I wrote creeds on them because this was in my little 14-year-old mind, this was who I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And I read it. I found them not too long ago. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
None of that really, it's not really changed.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful.
That was really cool to find that.
Yeah. Well, as I'm kind of like listening to myself lecture Ethan, which Ethan, I apologize. I feel like that turned into
I don't think you were lecturing him. I think you were
it was all right. I was tiptoeing. I was in the riparian zone of lecturing. But I mean, how amazing would that be? And not everyone is a Sherry or an Ethan, but to write like a creed, a values visioning creed in poetry for your family.
I mean, these were from other people that I found. They're not, that's not mine. That's not, I didn't write those.
No way.
Yeah, I found them.
Even better. That makes it way more accessible because then you can just find what you love. It's like, you know, collages, but with,
Collage your values
yeah,
together.
collage your values. Okay, this solves everything. Sherry, we just need family creeds with collaged quotes.
Well, that's where poetry comes in, my friend. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Go, oh, you know, like a quote out of D.H. Lawrence there. Like, what did he say here? When you go to sleep at night, you have to say, here dies the man I am and know myself to be. You know, in my Orthodox prayer book, there's a prayer for going to bed.
Mm-hmm.
That you're dying.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get up in the morning, you thank God for your for the fact that you didn't die in the night.
Yeah.
That you're still alive, right? It's a simple thing.
Yeah. Well, this is kind of a full circle moment because we started off with distinguishing between the ways we quoted other people in the past and the way we quote people now.
Right.
And like when it becomes a generative spark for your family and your life, that is powerful stuff. I'm all for that.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but my husband just sent me a message, and while we're talking, the golden eye just brought her chicks. Her chicks just dropped out of the cottonwood tree right out here, and she brought them into our pond.
No way.
Yeah. Look, let me show you this. I gotta show you this.
Show. Oh my goodness gracious. I can kind of see.
You can kind of see?
Just
Yeah, but
barely, yeah. It's very low resolution.
He's out there right this minute.
Yeah,
I wish I could take you with me.
Oh, so cute.
Life.
All right. Well, I think that's a lovely place to end, Sherry.
Mm.
I know. I have to get going.
I know, me too.
We can just keep doing this, but there's always next week. And I don't know what we're going to do next week because I'm all out of tracks on the Consciousness album. But the song is still being written, Sherry.
Yes, it is.
And
yes, it is. Follow the muse, my friend. Follow the muse.
Follow the muse. All right. Well, thank you for continuing on this journey with me.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
And we'll see you and all of you out there on the internet at a later date.
Bye, Rajal. Thank you.
Bye, Sherry.